Mr. Miracle number 12 by Tom King, the exciting conclusion to his year-long 12-issue run that has been very critically acclaimed. Now, this series and this last issue have been kind of controversial because a lot of people find this book kind of confusing and very high concept, and it is a lot to try to take in, and Tom King is very ambiguous sometimes with the story, so it's not very straightforward, and a lot of people do hate that, and I totally understand why some people dropped off this book or didn't jump into it to begin with. Because to really appreciate and understand this book, you have to analyze it. You have to almost reread it. And frankly, who wants to put in that much work to really appreciate it sometimes? So when I read issue 12, I actually went back and reread issue 1, and then I reread issue 11, and then I reread issue 12 a second time just to really wrap my head around what Tom King was trying to say with this book and in this last issue. Another reason why this book I think is so difficult to follow sometimes, for me, as well as for some people, is that Mr. Miracle is not exactly the most popular character, and these secondary characters from the Fourth World, Jack Kirby's kind of creation, they're not top of mind for a lot of people. And a lot of these characters were fairly new-ish to me. Like, I kind of know about them, but I don't really know them that intensely. And this book, Tom King really uses a whole bunch of them, and you might not get the most out of it if you're not familiar with all the lore. So we have Mr. Miracle, we have his wife, Big Barda. Then we have this guy, Oberon, who is Mr. Miracle's manager. We got Forager, we got Granny Goodness, we got Highfather, we got Darkseid, we have Funky Flashman, we got Metron. We got so many crazy characters thrown in this book, and I really had to kind of learn about them as I was going along with this series. Now, last issue, it ended with Mr. Miracle beating Darkseid and winning, and then all of a sudden Metron shows up and sends Mr. Miracle to this other kind of world, and that's where we pick up this issue. Now, throughout this particular issue, the last one, there is lots of this flickering within the page, sort of like an anomaly or an irregularity in the space-time continuum or something. And throughout this issue, we have scot-free, Mr. Miracle, living his normal life with Big Barda. They have this new kid along the way. They're living this very domestic life. They sometimes go off and do a little bit of a space adventure, but for the most part, it is the banality of regular life. And then interspersed with that, we have little interactions with characters that have died, and they are talking to Scot-Free about what is going on. So all these characters pop up, and each of them kind of has a different theory about what is going on to feed the reader. So while Scott is in his apartment shaving, Granny Goodness pops up, and she tells Scott that basically he's insane, and the world he's in now is an insane world that he has created just to escape her. And she kind of chastises him for that. Then we go over to this guy, Forager, and he's like, dude, you're dead and you're in hell. This is what this is right now. Then we jump over to Orion, and Orion is like, dude, you died and you're in heaven now, and you're living this domestic lifestyle. That's your version of heaven. Then we jump over to Highfather, and Highfather is kind of saying that basically what's happened is that Darkseid fired off the anti-life equation, and it got Scott, and now he is either dead or whatever the anti-life equation does to you, it got him, and that's what is happening right now. Then we see some Darkseid. He doesn't say anything, and he's kind of just there, but he's not really there as well. He's there, he's present, but he's not present. Very interesting. Then we have an interaction with Oberon that is very touching. Like I said, Oberon was Scott's old manager. They have a very close relationship, and they have a very touching moment here. Then on the last page of this issue, Big Barda says, Darkseid is. And then Scot-Free says, yeah, I know, but we are too. Barda's like, what's gotten into you? And then Scott's like, I can always escape. Big Barda says, can you? And that's how it ends, and they embrace, and then we have the flicker, meaning that is what we are seeing actually real or not? And then it's interesting, it says the Mr. Miracle series will not be continued. Its new and thrilling successor will soon be on sale. Look for it. So it will not be continued, but its successor will be continued at some point. Very mysterious and ambiguous. I could see why people are annoyed by this, by the ambiguousness of it. I guess what the point is that, is Scott alive? Is he dead? Is he in the current continuity? Is he in the New 52? Is he in some other continuity? Does continuity really matter? Does whether he's alive or not really matter? In the world of comics, does any of that really matter? Of course, Mr. Miracle will be back in some form, but it doesn't mean it's this Mr. Miracle. It could be a different version of Mr. Miracle. It is a very puzzling conclusion. I like all the thinking it makes you do. I just have to go back to issue 1 and remind everybody what happened. This series opened with Mr. Miracle attempting suicide and, slitting his wrist. And then the storyline has him waking up at the hospital, but is he actually alive or not? Or is the rest of the series from that point on just a dream, just a made-up world? Is he in heaven? Is he in hell? In the first issue, when he wakes up at the hospital, he's talking to his wife, Big Barda, and he says, your eyes, they're not blue. They were blue, but they're brown. Why are they brown? And Big Barda says, Scott, don't be crazy. They've always been brown. How hard did he hit you? But maybe her eyes were blue, and it's just that one little hint that the world is not the actual real world. I just don't know what to think of this ending. It's so weird. I liked it though. I'm going to give this last issue and this series overall an 8 out of 10. I think it's definitely worth reading. I understand why you might say that this is not for you, but I mean, it is good. It's just maybe a little unsatisfying, but at the same time, very satisfying. I'm very mixed on it, but I mean, I think it's very interesting, and it is worth checking out. Let me know your thoughts on this issue and this series. Let me know any theories you have on everything, or let me just know if you freaking hated this book. Let me know that too.